huge round of applause. All right.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Ansbacher, for the warm introduction. Again, my name is Stevanie Rhim, a business student here at the great Montclair State University, and I'm truly honored to be speaking with you all today. Just last year, I was sitting in the audience, right over there, blown away by the speakers. To now be one is truly an honor, a privilege, and I'm so grateful to Liz and Valeria for the opportunity to share with you all what my life purpose and passion is. So this past summer, I started kickboxing, and it has been the absolute love of my life. So when my sensei or Joshu gives us a command, we reply with oos. So in order for me to make sure that you all are engaged and listening today, when I say oos, I need you guys to reply back with oos. Oos? All right, awesome. So I started my entrepreneurship and activism journey back in high school. I attended a predominantly white school while living in a predominantly Black and Hispanic town. It was confusing for me because I was trying to coexist in two worlds at once while still trying to learn who I was. High school is where I launched my passion and purpose, Conversation Matters. It is a platform and curriculum that guides people through the process of having uncomfortable conversations about race, sexuality, politics, and other pressing issues with people of all cultures. This construct not only has been able to change the individuals a part of the conversation, but has sparked a ripple effect of change, vulnerability, compassion, awareness, and empathy. There is one factor to each of these discussions that made them so successful. The individuals a part of the conversation allowed themselves to be uncomfortable and transparent in order to have these discussions. I would like to take a few minutes with you all today to talk about how you too can change the world through uncomfortable conversations. Oos? So there are 3 action steps to a successful, uncomfortable conversation. For our first, we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. The more we are, the more we will grow. Even as a woman in business, I am learning that I can never grow if I do not allow myself to pivot out of my comfort zone and do what makes me uncomfortable. So when I've had conversations with white people about race, it wasn't that they didn't want to talk about it. It was either a taboo topic, they were afraid of saying the wrong thing, or they were afraid of being judged or criticized for prejudiced ideas. But, I mean, how could you not be prejudiced? Our country was built on the backs of slaves, and land was appropriated from natives, so of course we have prejudiced tendencies and ideas. But if we never allow ourselves to talk about these things, we will never allow ourselves to evolve as a human race. Even as I'm talking to you all right now, if you find that it makes you uncomfortable, sit with that and allow yourself the discomfort. But understand that you are safe. Oos? For our second action step, we have to show up with compassion and empathy even when we do not know how. And firstly, we have to have it for ourselves before we can have it for others. And the story I'm getting ready to tell you is quite uncomfortable for me, but it is a way for me to show courageous compassion for myself so that hopefully you can do the same. So, back in high school, I did a social experiment with the famous Harvard test that studies implicit bias. I suggest you all try this test if you haven't already. I took the race version, which basically tells you if you have a preference towards Black people or white people, aka which race you prefer. Well, shockingly, for me, it told me that I moderately prefer white people over Black people. I don't think you guys heard me. It told me I prefer white people over my own people. I was utterly shocked. Now, obviously, I didn't want to accept the results because ideally, the outcome we want is neutrality. But I had to identify with why I felt this way towards my own culture. And after much reflection, I realized that I have believed a lot of what society has taught me to believe about my own culture. And therefore, it clouds my judgment and sometimes my behavior. So I asked other peers to take this test as well so that we could compare results. The fact that my results were the same as my white counterparts really caused me much shame and guilt. But implicit bias is all about looking deeper into our prejudice. We all have them, and we need to recognize that when we're interacting with one another. It doesn't make behavior excusable, but it does make it easier to understand. And when we know better, we do better. Now that I understand my bias and where it stems from, I have a stronger understanding and compassion that some white people may have ideas about race that may cloud their judgment as well. And in order to break down those barriers, we have to be willing to do what is uncomfortable. Oos? For our third and final action step. We have to be curious enough to listen to one another and courageous enough to speak our truth. I know we can all say we've had a conversation with someone and we just felt like they were talking at us and not with us. They want you to understand them, but they're not quite willing to understand you. Well, whether we realize it or not, we tap back into those same ideals when we're having a conversation that is making us uncomfortable. We shut down, we disengage, and then the conversation ends with this dent in the relationship. So I know this is a story that some women of color may be able to relate to. I was having a conversation with this teacher aide about how this white girl walks up to me and she pats my head like I was a dog and says, "Oh my God, I love your hair. I had no idea it could get so straight." The teacher aide literally got up and walked out of the room. I was so confused. So later on that day, she walks up to me and she says, "Oh my God, Stephanie, I'm so sorry that I walked away earlier with no explanation. Well, I was uncomfortable with the story you were telling me because I too have touched a black woman's head and she didn't like it." On the outside, I felt bad for the woman, but on the inside, I was dying of laughter. It is okay to laugh at our own behaviors and say, "Hey, I do that too, and I had no idea it was uncomfortable or offensive. Thank you for letting me know so that I don't find myself petting another black woman again." I probably saved her from getting swatted in the face one day. So trust me, it is more uncomfortable for me to be up here and share these stories with you all than it probably is to hear them. But I need us to understand that we are a denial society, and we cannot afford to continue to operate that way. It is not fair to my generation or the generations to come. And as the great Dr. King stated over 50 years ago, now is the time that we lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. So again, remember, the steps to having a successful, uncomfortable conversation are to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, to show up with compassion and empathy, and to listen to one another, as well as speak your truth. Oos? Before I go, I'd like to leave you all with an assignment. To the students in the room, remember that you are the next leaders of the world. Strive to impact, influence, and lead with purpose. Do not be afraid to get into some good trouble. Remember that you have the tools and resources to make this world a better place. The job is in our hands now. Hold your peers accountable, because the only way we win this fight is together. To my adults in the room, be the adult you needed as a child. Allow others not only the space to feel safe, but to grow, to make mistakes, to say the wrong things, and allow yourself the space to make mistakes as well, but evolve so that you can lead by example to us. Let's connect to continue the conversation. It is my honor to help leaders and organizations structure uncomfortable conversations to create change and drive impact, because conversation matters. I'll leave you all with my favorite quote. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Oos? Thank you.